newspaper eDeposit. So it's exciting, we're talking about news today. So the library, so I'll give you a little bit of background to start with. The Library of Congress has one of the most extensive newspaper collections in the world, with about 9,000 newspaper titles across the past 3 centuries of U.S. history. Historically, much of the library's newspaper collection that is used for research or use has been developed through transfers of physical materials from newspaper publishers to the Copyright Office, and typically this comes in either microfilm or paper deposits. So allow me to give you a little bit of background. As you know, the Copyright Office is a separate federal department within the Library of Congress, and it administers the nation's copyright laws, including laws that provide protections for creators. If a publisher registers a copy of a work that the library would like for its permanent collections, the library will retain a copy for research or use. This is one very important way that the library builds its collections. Among the most abundant creators of content are newspaper publishers. The Pew Research Center reports that there were an estimated 35 million weekday newspapers, both print and digital, circulated in the U.S. in 2016. So newspaper publishers currently have an option to register their newspapers with the Copyright Office for the protections that it affords them. So since 1990, some publishers have chosen to take advantage of this group discount option that the library provides. The option requires the applicant to fill out a paper form, mail it to Washington, D.C., with about a month's worth of newspaper issues and an $80 check. An alternative is for them to send single newspaper issues at $55 each. So the cost of registering issues for 1 month in the single fashion exceeds the cost of the group registration option over an entire year. So that's a significant cost savings. But due to changes in the publishing industry, microfilming has increased in cost for newspaper publishers. It used to be that newspaper publishers were hiring microfilm producers to transfer their paper issues onto microfilm for their own preservation needs. This is no longer the case as we've moved into the digital age. Representatives in the newspaper industry have told us that there are only a few microfilm producers who are publishing content on archival quality microfilm. And there can be significant delays that impact the timeliness of registration. So essentially, publishers are transferring their newspapers to microfilm for the sole purpose of registering their content with the Copyright Office. So let me talk to you about the News Media Alliance and how this is related. The News Media Alliance was, up until 2016, called the Newspaper Association of America, and it's an organization that represents the interests of more than 2,000 newspapers in the US and worldwide. And years ago, the Alliance asserted that many newspapers were no longer registering their works because of the microfilm requirement. So we reviewed nearly 5 years of registration records, and what we found is that nearly 70% of newspapers selected for the library's collections were not being registered. So the library joined forces with NMA to modernize the deposit requirements by testing out various delivery scenarios and types, file types. So through NMA, the library worked with several major publishers to collect and gather and analyze various types of news content. We tried harvesting newspaper websites, we gathered article-level XML files, and we collect tens of thousands of e-prints, which is the term that is used for the PDF facsimile of the newspaper issue. And that's pictured here on the slide. So after a significant web harvesting undertaking, I'll emphasize significant, we concluded that at the current time and with the existing tools, web harvesting frequently cannot succeed at capturing 100% of a news website, given the dynamic nature of the news, the speed of capture, and the fact that much of the content is behind password-protected paywalls. So with the need for static, comprehensive, high-quality news content for long-term preservation, we went forward with exploring the possibilities of e-prints for copyright deposit. And you knew where this was going, right? We're here at a PDF conference. So NMA members in the library, we worked together to develop and test out specifications that the newspapers could easily attain and enable that kind of seamless, sequential navigation as a microfilm reel. We started by asking the publishers to send us files that they were creating in the normal course of operations as a baseline, and then we analyzed the characteristics of these files, and then we worked from there. So we found that the following specifications strike a balance between the library's need for long-term preservation and management of the files with the relative burden on applicants willing to participate in the registration system. So the foundational and most important requirement here is that we have a renderable PDF, right? The version of PDF is not specified, and we did ask for PDF-As during our technical pilot, but we did not receive any in return from the publishers. So versions for us range from 1.3 to 1.7, and they were all renderable in our tests. So next, book of the newspaper, what does that mean? That means instead of receiving page-level newspaper files, we're receiving one complete issue of the PDF issue in page sequential order. This ensures that a complete copy is received. So as you know, embedded fonts lessen the chance of dropped or garbled fonts due to substituted fonts. And we ask for searchable text to enable discovery and access. We ask for minimal embedded metadata. So we only ask for two fields, the ISSN and the publication date. And these fields are required to maintain the document's provenance information, and they really allow an enhanced data description for us. And we want files that are free from DRM, which would limit or prevent future access. We want a meaningful file name. So what does that mean? We want, again, ISSN and publication date. They stand out as the two most meaningful pieces of information that we could collect. So we asked for the file name to contain those two pieces of information. So, and lastly, the copyright system, which is called ECHO, ECO, limits uploads to 500 megabytes per file. So based on the samples that we received, this should not be an issue, but it was a specification. So by specifying certain attainable aspects of the digital deposit copy, we can assure that content, like we did for microfilm, produced across many publishers can be uniformly understood, managed, and preserved over time. So when will this all happen? Very soon is the answer. So these specifications will be listed in a final rule that is set to be published this week on Copyright's website, so on or before February 1st, and will be effective on March 1st. This means that if publishers want to register their issues, beginning on March 1st, they must use PDFs. In addition to the new format requirements, the paper filing form will no longer be used, and instead, the Copyright Office's electronic registration system, ECHO, as I mentioned before, will be used to fill out the application and upload the files. Another key part of this final rule is that there will be a transitional period in which microfilm is accepted alongside, but not in place of PDFs. This transition period is in direct response to a request from the publishers. Some publishers told us that they've entered into these long-term contracts with microfilm producers, and they are still in effect. And additionally, some publishers may need time to work out and develop their internal procedures and QA testing to make sure that their PDFs meet our specifications. So until December 31st of 2019, the publishers may also send microfilm in the mail. And the film will be used in the event that the library finds a deficiency with the delivered PDFs. So this has benefits for all, of course. For publishers, PDFs are already created as part of their existing workflows. They send them off to the printer. They send them to aggregators. This is not a new file format for newspaper publishers. There's a substantial cost savings over microfilm. It eliminates contracts with the microfilm producers and eliminates shipping fees. There are also legal benefits here. Copyright registration certificates may be issued sooner with PDFs than microfilm. So the effective date of registration may be earlier. And also, if we need a copy for litigation, PDF is easier for us to store and retrieve than microfilm. And the library patrons also benefit from this. Self-service access. So this means that for most titles, microfilm reels are stored in closed stacks. The patrons can't get to them. So we think that future PDFs, of course, could be self-service. Also in the future, the library patrons could perform keyword searches, which of course is at a level of research above and beyond microfilm. And for the library, the PDFs are renderable without additional software. So Adobe tools are already in the enterprise and can be easily deployed to any machine that needs them. So PDFs will increase the efficiency of the group registration process. A registration specialist can examine a PDF as soon as it comes in and has been uploaded to the system. Physical copies, they slow everything down. It may take weeks to connect that paper filing form to the physical copy that's coming in with the application deposit. So I will conclude with this tweet, as we all like to tweet. In 2016, the Library of Congress tweeted, "Have you visited our newspaper reading room lately? Sweet new microfilm scanners." And I can attest they actually are very sweet. And a reply here, which I thought was very pertinent to our conversation today. Why don't you use CDFs and something like PDF? Seems to make more sense. So I would be doing a disservice to our collections if I didn't mention that we already have over 65,000 digitized newspapers on loc.gov/newspapers, and each can be downloaded as a PDF. However, we do have a vast collection, as I mentioned before, all the newspapers that had come in, on high-quality microfilm that we will continue to maintain for the public record and serve. But I think that these updates to the copyright rules are important because they enable the library to take advantage of both the benefits of broad acceptance of PDF and allow us to adapt to the changing newspaper industry. So I thank you for your time.